In this episode, we get to learn from Ordana her first time getting into the Scrum Master role and finding her groove. If you have been trying to find your very first Scrum Master role, listen in on this episode because Ordana definitely dropped some gems on finding that first role.
All right, Ordana, you just like dropped so much awesomeness, first of all. But what I'm hearing is that it sounds like the way that you're describing it, you just like, I know it, but I know that there was a learning curve, right? Because in your first role, so you have the support of your company. So this wasn't that you got the CSM and you applied for a job and you're like, I'm a CSM. Like you were supported by your organization. So what was it like your first time in running all these ceremonies, just like from a general sense? Did you feel like after your 2-day training and you're like, okay, this makes sense? Were you like, I know it now? Or were you like, I still don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out? Like, on the truth, it's just between me and you and all the other people who are listening.
All the other people listening. No. So what I wanted to do is I had a feeling that I was like, well, the next job is going to be a Scrum Master job. So I tried to implement meetings in my project management job. So while I was still there, I was like, can we do a retro, like a quarter retro? And they were like, how do you want it? What do you mean? I was like, I want to run it. And I ran it like true Donna fashion, like a total party. I was like, okay, so we have snacks and we have fruit and like, so this is all before COVID. And I was just like, okay, so we're going to do an icebreaker. I was like, y'all know, I know you. So if you don't speak, I'm going to call you out. You don't want that. Nobody wants that. Right. Okay. So like I gave everyone Post-its and we all got up there. I was all about it. I was like, Jeff, you didn't talk yet. You have no opinion. Like I was that person. So I was like trying to get them. And then I was like, how do I get this retro information actually implemented? Like what things that are in my control, what things are more so in a manager or department's role. Like how do I get them to understand why the team needs this change? And then I would go off and try to implement these things. When I first got to the real role, it was just like, no one wanted these titles. They thought the titles meant like their job change. And I was like, why is this so hard? I don't understand. I thought everyone in software did this. Why don't you guys want it? They were not interested. They were like, I don't want to be the lead. What does that mean? I don't want to be like the manager over my team. I don't want to do that. I was like, I just want to code. I don't want to be this. I was like,
oh, we had an eye-shaped person.
God, right? Like they were very much like, I don't want to do that. And I was like, so it's just like, well, why? So like unearthing their why so that it wasn't, I had a better sense of like how I can get them to do this. Because it was like someone needs to own it and you're the person. You're obviously the person. You're doing it now without the title. I just need you to do it with the title. Like I just need you to be accountable for this.
So like, I won't call you that, but I'll just put it secretly on the public documents.
I won't tell people that's what you are, but I will treat you this way, right? Because I'm like, I'm not used to not setting the expectation. I'm like, no, that's your job. That's what you do. So it was that was something that was like new. It was very new to like convince people like, this is normal. I'm not changing your job. It's okay. Like it was like that. There was a lot of that. And it's like, just like I mentioned, like a project management characteristic where you just have to influence people and influencing them without authority, right? So, because I'm not your manager, but I need you to do this.
Help me, help you, help the organization. Yes. Oh my goodness. So what would you say, how long did it take you? Was there like an aha or the harps in the playing in the background where you're like, this is my jam? Like, how long did it take you after kind of going through the starts and stops of this, where you're like, I feel confident as a Scrum Master or taking on that role? Was it a few months into it? Was it a year into it, consistently practicing the agile practices?
I think it was a few months into it. And it was like when the team had their own rhythm. I feel like with Scrum Masters, it's different than a project manager in that you want the team to be able to be self-sufficient. Like if you don't come in, someone will say, all right, stand up guys, come on, let's go. Like they're self-sufficient. They have like a rhythm. And it's like, they are comfortable with pushback that's not rude. that's just saying like, no, we need to do the stand up, or we can't like just interrupt the whole sprint, like just being able to do that. Then that's when I knew I was like, oh, I'm doing it. You're doing it, Peter. So like, it was very much that. Yeah. So I was like excited about that. That's how I felt like, okay, I'm doing this for real. I'm doing
That's
this.
cool. That is awesome. Well, do you have any suggestions for someone who's just starting out? How do they find their first Scrum Master job? What kind of roles should they be looking into? And I'd love your insight. Does it make sense to get the 2-day training and then apply for jobs when you've never done agile practice, and especially if project management is new to you? That was a lot, but go for it.
I get this question a lot as well, on Instagram. What I suggest to people is very much like what I did, which was definitely get the training, right? You're not going to learn until you actually put some of it in practice. Start trying to put it in practice where you are.
Mhm.
So that way you have an opportunity to kind of see, okay, so the retro, you don't want it to be a moan and groan, because like people show up and they're like, and you know what else I didn't like? It's like, I remember when you didn't finish your ticket and I had to pick it up, like, whoa. That's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing. Like it takes some practice to kind of, and like another thing that's like a little uncomfortable with agile is like a little bit of arguments and disputing. That's not bad.
Right.
So you're watching this tense, like, I don't stop them. No. Okay. Like, how far do I let this go? Like, oh, we're yelling, hello, ground rules. Like, so you want to make sure that you are practicing some of it, right? Start practicing things like, how do I know when the definition of done is? Like, how do we know that this is exactly what you want us to do? Like, start asking Scrum Master like questions where you are imploring your team to actively think about what they need to do. You're trying to be a self-servant, like it's not called a self-servant.
Servant leader.
Leadership. I was like, self-servant, that's not what it's called, Donna. Like, sheesh, I heard it and was like, wait, that's not right. Servant leader, right? And you want to make sure that you are helping the team, but you're influencing them to get it done. Like you have control over your team. Like you want to go get this done. You know what the goal is, like being able to influence and encourage at the same time, and like giving them the tools, like, okay, giving them the language or what to ask, or like, okay, well, we're not even sure what to do. It sounds like you need a spike. What is a spike, Donna? What are you saying? What? Like, but it sounds like you guys need to get together for like a half an hour, time box it. Like, you start using the language that don't just get the training and then just like, well, I'm certified CSN, comma. Like, like start actively use that language, actively use some of those, and then you can upsell this to your management. Like,
Yeah.
I understand that being able to be iterative, right? Being iterative is being able to develop faster, to work faster. And I think that we should maybe implement certain things so we can like unearth what are the issues, what are the things that we've learned, how do we implement that the next set of, working, the next project, right? So like, even if they don't use the exact same language, how can you start to practice it so that when you get to the new role, you're not like, I've never done this. What are they talking about? I don't know that word. Like,
right.
Use that as early as you can after you get certified.
No, that's really great advice. We'll probably have to have a follow on, because there are definitely folks who are in an industry that is nothing like software, whether it be teaching. And I think you still have to, toe the line, right? Because you start in a PTA meeting, you're like, let's do a sprint. And they're like, what?
What
Spike.
We're going to run? What? Like you.
So I think, there's, you and I are both project management nerds, or PM tool junkies, and we love everything about it. And so when we hear other people like, I want to be a project manager, that's awesome. We're your biggest cheerleader. We just want you to think about the ways as opposed to fast tracking it per se.
Yes.
And I think sometimes with, I'm going to get the certification and therefore I am, it does not work that way. It is getting the experience and doing things like reaching out to you, reaching out to me, being a part of groups, just keep pushing forward and not be discouraged around that. So I think that is really helpful.
Can I do one more plug before you?
Absolutely.
Consider, I always say this because I did this as well, consider volunteering for PMI. Even though it's not like specifically agile, they always have opportunities for someone to volunteer. And those are opportunities for you to get some experience. And you can say, like, is there something I can do or volunteer where I can really tighten up my agile skills? PMI is doing a huge push towards agile and making sure that people have exposure to it. So I would say that, as well as any nonprofit organization that you might be involved in. If there is a project or something that they're running, see whether or not you can also implement or do that project in an agile a way, right? So being able to practice that methodology, whether it be, at a church, like, okay, so we're gonna plan for this set of time and we're gonna like learn from it and then see if we can do this. Or if you have a coat drive and you're gonna do multiple coat drives, you can do multiple sprints, right? So what did you learn from the last one? Like, like who's gonna be doing what? Like, you know what I mean? Like there's all kinds of opportunities for you to practice this and be able to speak to it during an interview, right? Like, my church is kind of big. My church is big. So like, there are different people that you have to work with. There's the young adults, there's the golden group, the golden group.
I remember that.
Right. And you have to work with these different sets of people and different sets of, personalities. And then like the treasurer, they want to know, like, how did we spend? How did this work? Like, so there are different things in how you explain it goes a very long way. So you're marketing your skills, but you need to be able to present it and articulate it in a way where it's like they understand, how to work with different people and how to get the best out of a group.
I think that's wonderful. I mean, you're absolutely right. And I think the way that, yes, there are nonprofits that have like a set, request, and then there are just nonprofits that just need your help.
Yes.
And if you go out there and ask them, and it's, it's going to be similar to knocking doors when you're looking for a job, but, you have the opportunity now to not only put those skills into practice, but also get those references provided you do a pretty decent job. And, reach out to the folks, that are in the different communities, project management communities, if they can, be a sounding board for you. There's someone who's going to be able to say yes. And you just have to set those expectations. If you just want an hour of their time a month or a week, so that they can, set the expectations for their own scheduling. But I think that's a fantastic idea, because I think people are looking for nonprofits to announce that they need volunteers, when you just have to go out there and say, hey, I see something, I see an opportunity, here's how I can help, and utilize those practices. So that is fantastic.
Ooh, Ordana, drop some gems. Make it fun and unearth the why for your team members. We learned in this episode that it took Ordana a few months to find her rhythm in the Scrum Master role. She definitely advocates get the training, and right where you are, even though your role or your job title might not be Scrum Master, put those techniques into practice. Stay tuned for the final episode concluding our conversation. She delivers as always. Thanks so much for listening.